Hello and welcome to UCLA Connections. We're bringing in UCLA experts on topics you care about. My name is Alison Hewitt and I work for UCLA Strategic Communications. I'll be moderating our conversation today about how families can have screen time without feeling like it's taking over. First, before we begin, I want to let our viewers know that this webinar is being recorded. Only the guest speaker and I will be recorded. The audience will not be recorded. The chat and Q&A functions have been turned off. Your microphones are muted and video of the audience is off. The recorded webinar will be available for viewing at ucla.edu/connections. Today's guest is Yalda Uhls, an adjunct assistant professor with UCLA's Department of Psychology. She's a child psychologist who studies how media affects children. She's the founder and executive director of the Center for Scholars and Storytellers, which advises content creators on how to make valuable content for children. And she's also an advisor to Common Sense Media. She's also the author of the parenting book, Media Moms and Digital Dads. For today's 20 to 30-minute conversation, she'll teach us some research-based solutions on how to use screens without having screen time take over your family's life. And she'll discuss some of the concerns about screen time, which ones are reasonable and which ones we can let go of. I'll be folding in questions that our audience submitted when they registered. And I think we're ready to begin. Yalda, thank you for joining me and our viewers today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm not sure how to disable my video. Okay, hold on. Sorry.
Let's see, your screen might be reversed.
Yep, it is. Okay, hello.
There we go. Lovely to see you.
Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. So our audience sent in a lot of questions today, and they mentioned children of all ages, from toddlers and preschoolers all the way through elementary, middle, and high school. The thing that it seems to me most of them had in common was concern over how long their children are spending staring at computers and TVs right now. Yeah. And I know I feel the same about my kindergartner. So what I'd like to ask you is, during this time of crisis, how much should we still be worrying about screen time?
First of all, I just want every parent to know you can cut yourself some slack. We've been studying this for 15 years, since mobile tech, 2007, screen time before that, social media. And, you know, while there are some concerns with certain types of screen time or certain children, you know, sometimes there are issues. By and large, most people are fine. Most kids are fine. We can learn from this. We can connect from this. There's a lot of positive impact of media. And we're in a pandemic. So we're in a crisis situation and it's hard. So I think it's, you know, the good news is there's a lot of research that shows you aren't harming your children.
That is a huge relief.
And I have two children. I have a 17 and 20-year-old. So I worry too. And I've gone through it all myself. And, you know, the kids are going to be all right.
That's terrific. So several parents are also asking whether there's such a thing as maybe good screen time and bad screen time, what kinds maybe help children learn or benefit them more, and whether that could vary by age.
Absolutely. So there's definitely good screen time and bad screen time. It's not necessarily the platform. It's more about the content and also the context and the child. So Lisa Guernsey came up with this framework that a lot of people have embraced, which is, instead of thinking about time limits, think about your child, the individual child. If they're not sleeping, if they're not socializing, if they're not eating, and they're only wanting to be on the screens, there might be an issue. But if all those other factors are okay, then screen time's fine. Think about the context. Are they doing it in school? Are they doing it with you to co-view? Are they doing it to socialize with their friends during the age, you know, tween teen years, when that's what they actually crave and need? You know, then that's okay. And then most importantly, think about the content. Think about, you know, all content is not the same, you know, from video games. Halo is a lot different than Minecraft, you know, and apply your own family values to what you allow your child to consume, because every family's different. So, you know, you're the best judge of the content.
And like you said, so certain games maybe games that have these kinds of, shooting and stuff need to wait until kids are older,
Well,
or
yeah, I mean,
not at all?
there's actually evidence that that video games is something that parents really worry about. I think because many of us don't play them, aren't familiar with them. But there's actually a lot of evidence that video games can teach things like spatial learning and mental rotation that underlie STEM learning, and especially for girls in particular can increase in those skill sets from playing video games. But ultimately, you have to balance the kind of content with what they may be taking away from it. A lot of kids use, and boys in particular, use these games to socialize. So this is the way they're connecting with their friends. My son has a game every Wednesday and Saturday night during this pandemic, and it's his social life. That is how he gets to be social. And if I took it away from him, he would be missing out on a really important developmentally important time for him to connect with peers and friends. But at the same time, some of these games have misogyny, they have too much violence, they're too commercial. You have to balance it out, and they're age appropriate. And I always recommend, and I know I'm an advisor, but I used it as a parent. Common Sense Media has amazing ratings that can help you make the appropriate developmental choice across all different kinds of media.
So that's good to have another resource that people can check. Thank you.
Yes.
Can you walk us through maybe some of the common concerns and tell us a little bit about maybe which ones are legitimate and which ones are more of almost like urban legends or myths at this point? Can too much screen time change a kid's personality? Will they lose social skills from spending too much time staring at a screen? And again, does the answer change depending on how old they are and how much social experience they've already had in their lives?
Yeah, I mean, the answer does change when they're very, very young, and the American Academy of Pediatrics is quite strict with their recommendations, and that can be challenging, especially if you have two children. So I don't want anyone to feel like your child can't look at a screen at all when they're very young. But the reality is they're not learning much from a screen. Under 2 years of age, they learn the most from the real world and face-to-face experience. And that means also, while you're looking at your own screen, they're not learning from your face. So you have to make sure that you build in times that you put your tech down and you're spending time face-to-face with your own child so that they're learning from you and you're learning from them and you're bonding. As they get older, it's just as long as they again are doing these, they're moving their bodies, they're eating well, they're putting it down for a while, they're running outside, they're doing well in school. As they get older, they're getting enough sleep is critical. Then the amount of time and the issues may not necessarily arise. Some kids do get very anxious. There is a trend for some girls in particular to have fear of missing out, usually around that tween age when they first get on social media and they see these perfectly curated lives and these beautiful people and they feel like they're not part of it. If you're noticing your child feel a lot of anxiety and staring at their screen a lot, don't necessarily take it away, but talk to them about how you feel and try to get them to sort of recognize that they're feeling that way because of what they're looking at. And, as they get older, you want to help them learn how to self-regulate. So it's important for you to developmentally teach them more and more skills about choosing the content on their own and making smart choices on their own. Yeah, and there are two other concerns I'm going to talk about. Cyberbullying. Sorry, cyberbullying is one, and definitely there are issues with cyberbullying, but it's not incredibly prevalent. But certainly, if your child seems to be very distressed or quiet and hiding the phone from you, or there's something going on, you may want to talk to them about that. And then addiction, that does appear that maybe 5 to 6% of the population may actually be get addicted to their screens in kids. And often those are underlying situations or factors. Maybe they come, there's addiction in your family. These are the kinds of things. It's not necessarily the screen itself that's doing it for them. And the one thing I would tell you, we have research just came out from published in cyber psychology, networking, and behavior, where we found that today's tweens, sixth graders, had actually improved in their ability to learn social cues without words in pictures, in photographs. So, and we think it's because of all the time young people have spent looking at photographs. You know, we're in the selfie culture, we're in the world where, you know, this social media and Snapchat and all these things are looking at their peers and their own faces more than they ever have, and they're learning from it.
So they're actually having an easy time recognizing emotions on faces, is what you're saying.
Yeah, easier than 5 years ago where we
Wow.
tested the same age kids. They're actually doing better on it. And,
so social skills, maybe not something to worry about too much, as long as they're still getting a dose of it some of the day.
Exactly.
And I want to go back to what you mentioned about children, very young children under the age of 2, because I know some of our viewers wrote in about that age group saying, like, I didn't mean to show my kid phones this early, but I don't have a whole lot of options right now. Is it okay?
Yes. Yes, it's totally fine. And the reality is most children under 2 won't really stay as engaged in your phone as long as you want them to sometimes. You know, it's okay to hand them a phone so you can, you know, take a little break for a second, or take a shower, or hand them a tablet. You know, just pay more attention to what you're actually showing them, you know, and don't necessarily believe that, you know, they're learning tons, but make it something that's engaging or fun. Or if you can put them in front of a screen, video chatting is actually been shown to teach kids. So even under 2. So, you know, if they're video chatting, have them video chat with grandma or grandpa or anybody, you know, anybody you trust. And that might be a way to really engage them. One grandma, I did this radio show, talked about how she did reading time with her kids. So nice. You can, you know, have someone read a book to them while you go do something else for a few minutes.
And we had a few parents who were also asking for very specific guides about how long children of different ages should spend using screens. Is there sort of time limits that you would recommend that are acceptable for kids to use technology, and time
so
limits
again, I think, yeah, time limits are, most researchers in this field, you know, really stay away from time limits, recommending time limits. There's really no, except for the extreme end, like over 8-9 hours a day outside of school. So like cutting into sleep and all sorts of different things. There's really no research that says they're detrimental limits, you know, that there's a time, a cutoff time. Every family's different, and it's more important to really think about the overall picture of your child. And, you know, as I said, again, if they're not sleeping enough and the phone or there's something in their room that's distracting them, you may want to consider taking it out. You probably should try to set it up that way without any devices in the bedroom, starting early and including in your own bedroom, so that you're modeling the right thing. But if it's already in there and you're noticing they're not sleeping, talk to them about taking it out. You know, if they're not eating, if they're not willing to sit down and be social, you know, if they're not moving their bodies and doing these other things. We also talk about sometimes having a varied media diet. So rather than just letting them binge watch 24/7, you know, playing games, doing some, you know, social interaction, doing some learning, different kinds of media exercises different parts of your brain.
And several parents were actually, going back to your suggestion, for example, to take the phone out of the bedroom. Several parents were asking for ways to help limit their kids' screen time without arguments, or ways to help their kids develop the skills to control their own screen time. You know, for kids who maybe are on their computer to do homework but are drifting to games, or who are getting very upset when their parents say, okay, it's time to stop watching that show or playing that game. Do you have resources or advice for things parents can do to cut down on those arguments and help kids develop their own skills?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same advice that we give for parenting in general. You know, there's in the parenting style literature, there is authoritative parenting, which is being warm and caring and giving and showing your child you love them, but still having limits. And the same thing shows up, and that has the most positive outcomes for kids. And the same thing shows up in the mediation literature, which is being positive, open, not always judging it, but also saying, here's some structure. Here's some ways that you can do this. And the best way to do it is really to get their buy-in, even from the littlest age. The more you can get your child to think it's their idea or that they have some autonomy in this, the better. And one of the best tools that I've found as a parent, and many of us in the, that talk to parents about this, is a family media plan, where you, Common Sense Media has one, the American Academy of Pediatrics has one, you can make your own. I made one with my son. And basically what you do is you work with, it's a conversation starter with your child, where you say, you can have, this much screen time, or do this, as long as you get good grades or you get enough sleep. And, and you put the onus on them to agree with you. And they may say something to you too, stop staring at your phone all the time, mom. So it's a two-way conversation, and you go back and revisit it every 6 months.
For parents who maybe believe screen time is a mostly negative influence in their children's life, are there any negative consequences to just taking screens away?
I mean, there actually is evidence that having no screens whatsoever can also have negative outcomes, but I don't think it's necessarily because a family has taken it away, or that's often if it's a child who just isn't drawn to that. And because these tools now, especially during those teenagers, are the way they socialize, it may mean that they're not socializing with their peers. Taking it away when they use it as a way to connect with other kids is not recommended, because it may be their lifeline. It may be the only way that they feel comfortable socializing. Introverts often may feel more comfortable socializing that way. There's a lot of examples of people in minority communities, or communities where they don't feel comfortable in their immediate environment, and they connect with people online, LGBTQ youth, or different kinds of youth that may not feel comfortable talking to people face to face or talking about different issues. They may use this as a way to connect and feel less lonely. So your child just taking it away without really thinking about the ways that they use it is not the greatest idea.
Okay. So we've got to kind of pay attention in both directions.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just like anything else, everything in moderation. Think about what you're role modeling, stay true to your values. It's the same old parenting applied to this digital world.
All right,
and
so
we're from trust.
Okay. So we're ready to work from trust. We're ready to start modeling well. Some of our parents have asked us how they can talk to their kids about screen time. They want to engage and they're not sure how, whether to ask how homework is going, or learn about what is this game you're playing, or maybe even influence their screen time choices. Any advice for how parents can connect on that level?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different things you can do. You try making yourself say a few positive things about their screen time, and they might open up into you because they feel like you like it. What's that YouTube thing you're watching, or what's the newest app you're doing? Who are you playing with your game on? Can I see you play this game? Starting from that place of being curious about what they're doing will get better results. Having open-ended questions, not things that they can just answer yes, no, not being always the gatekeeper, being someone that's sort of teaching them to make their own choices. Like, let's say they decide they want to watch something that you don't really approve of, rather than saying, no, absolutely not. First of all, consider if this is the battle you want to fight. If that's, sometimes when you give in, you win in a more important battle. But you should always express your concerns, even if you decide that you're going to let your child do it. But you say, I don't like that because the way the characters, the violence in the show or the sexual content, and have them sort of start to process it themselves, or the gender stereotypes. I'd like to talk to you about it afterwards if you watch it. My advisor told me that when her kids were growing up, she didn't want them to watch the Brady Bunch because of the gender
Oh,
stereotypes. So she let her son watch it, but she made him write a one-page paper about it
oh,
afterwards,
wow.
which I was like, that's a really good idea. Then it teaches them critical thinking. I mean, ultimately, media literacy is where you want your child and all of us to go, that we understand what's real, what's not, what's fake news, how to get, have safe passwords. And so teaching them to, learn this stuff on their own so that they're literate around the media choices is the best way.
So, thinking especially about this specific time,
Yeah.
are there ways we can expect children to be changed by the screen time they're getting at home right now, especially when most of our socialization is happening over screens?
Well, I don't know actually, and that's a great question. And there are many researchers at UCLA studying this on all sorts of level. And in my lab, we did not find a difference between these 2012 in the study we just published in their ability to read nonverbal emotional cues on video. They were the same from before and now. And we're wondering if now that all of us are so much on this video, we're going to see a difference, and they're actually going to be able to learn these cues from here. So we're going to see if they're getting better at reading, learning from video. But there's going to be so many things that are changed. And it's funny, I was talking to a content creator earlier today, and they were like, how are they going to responsibly show how young people should act in stories a year from now? Will social distancing be a norm for us, for a long time? Will washing your hands all the time, when there's going to be a lot of changes. But, I think the one thing that this has taught me and everyone is we can't plan right now. We don't know, every day something changes.
So here's another predict the future one.
Okay.
For those of us who are relaxing our screen time rules, are we setting ourselves up for trouble when things go back to quote unquote normal? And is there anything we can do to potentially ease that transition?
Yeah, I mean, any transition is always hard. A change of environment is hard. We have a puppy, and the puppy is so much like the baby. You move the puppy, and it has to learn everything over again. So starting really early, I think, we know probably in 2 weeks there's going to be some changes. Start talking to your child about it now and saying, what do you think should we change? What do you think we'll keep? What did we like about the screen time? We're doing Zoom calls with friends and family that we never did. Maybe that's something you like that you've gained from this, but maybe, the video game time and always being on or sitting on the couch is not something. So start talking about it often, over and over again. You can talk about an agreement. Let's all agree that when we go back, that we are going to put the screens down when we come home from school and spend some time doing this or that, but helping your child buy into whatever those changes are and starting early and talking about it often. And then also you yourself show that you're willing to change your habits as well.
And then this is about our last question. Are there any resources that you would like to highlight or remind parents of that they might want to check out after the webinar is over, or top 3 tips that you want to reiterate before we end?
I mean, the top 3 tips are just the ones: role model. Think about your own behavior first. You're your first teacher in every way, but in media, I mean, we have these phones and devices long before they do, and they learn from us. The second thing is think more about the balance rather than time limits. Think about, that they're doing a variety of different things, even in their media world. And the third would be think about the content. Pay more attention to the content, and because they can learn from this stuff, and there's a lot of really great content out there. So steer them towards the good stuff and away from the bad stuff. Common Sense Media is a national nonprofit, and they have over 35,000 ratings that are really quite good for helping you make decisions about what to choose The American Academy of Pediatrics has this media calculator, and they have guidelines. 0 to 3, if you have little kids, is a good resource. And, when I'm thinking about good content, PBS Kids, Sesame Street, especially when they're young, guide them towards those resources.
And any recommendations for ideas of ways to get off of screens?
Yeah,
I think you had some resources that you shared with a couple of links that people could go to.
Yeah, you might have to remind me what those were, but
I'm trying to remember. I think one might have been Tinkergarten.
Tinkergarten, yeah, right, yeah.
I guess that might be for smaller kids.
Yeah, it's for smaller kids. Getting your child to go out, every day and go for a walk and maybe bike ride, or doing that with them, cooking together has been a real joy. Making sure that they just know that only staring at screens is, and I think actually most kids don't want to just stare at screens. They get bored too. There are a few kids that like screens nonstop, but a lot of them would prefer to be with friends. And in fact, most surveys for teens and tweens say that they're not addicted to technology. They're just addicted to their friends. And if we let them have more face-to-face time and more sort of relaxed time together, they wouldn't be staring at these screens as much to connect.
All right, well, thank you so much for your answers and for providing just a calm and well-researched approach to this really thorny issue.
Yeah, I've been there. I got my PhD while my tween, and I was studying this stuff, and I was very, very worried after the iPad and everything took off. So I understand the fears, but the reality is, luckily, we've studied this for a long enough time now, and by and large, most children become productive, active. This generation's doing really well, and and there is research that shows this generation actually has no worse social skills than the pre-social media generation, and in fact, maybe a teeny bit better. So,
wow. All right. Well, this has been by and large a relief. Thank you again. This is all we have time for today. Professor Yalda Uhls, thank you for your time with us this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me.
And to our audience, thank you as well for joining us today and attending UCLA Connections. To rewatch the conversation or get more information about the UCLA Connections series, please visit please visit ucla.edu/connections.